Welcome to the last part of the weapon modeling tutorial. Today we're going to do everything we need to do to export the model to Jedi Academy. So we now have the textured model. Of course we need to save the texture. So first I'm going to create a folder for the model. In game database models weapons 2, all the other sabers are here as well. And I'm going to create a new folder for my saber. In order to make sure it's unique, I prefix it with MRW, short for Mr. Wonko, and I'm going to call it Rusty Sword. So first we need to save the texture. The order really doesn't matter right here now, but I'm going to save the texture first. So I'm going to the UV editing window. I could as well change the view down here from 3D view to UV image editor, but this is faster. And I go to image, save as image, and I go to base models weapons 2, the folder I just created, Rusty Sword, and I'm going to call this Rusty Sword. I'm not going to use PNGs, I'm going to use a JPEG. I once heard somebody say that JPEGs are faster to load than PNGs in Jedi Academy. So down here in the settings, file type, change that to JPEG. Quality 90% sounds okay to me. Saving this. Once again, we have to make sure it's power of 2 in width and height. In our case, or in my case, 128 and 1024. That's fine. So that's the texture. And now we need to tell the exporter to use this texture. So I'm switching back to the default view. I'm still in the texture paint mode. I'm changing that back to the object mode and changing back to texture. Well, actually no, let's keep it at solid. You'll see why in a moment. I'm going to the object settings, and now I need to add a custom property. Down here, custom properties, expand that and click add and edit. To set the texture, we create a custom property called MD3 shader, and the property value is the texture to use. So in our case, or in my case, models weapons 2 MRW Rusty Sword / Rusty Sword. Don't use any extension, it will be automatically added. Now I'm going to save this as a new file. Because now we are going to apply the modifier, the mirror modifier. We have to do that before we can export, because the exporter doesn't know about modifiers, and so it just has to be a very simple model. So I'm going to the modifier and click apply. Now if I enter the edit mode by pressing tab, it's been applied and we see that it's not mirrored anymore. Another thing we have to keep in mind is that Jedi Academy only supports triangles. Currently we have some faces that have 4 vertices. So I'm pressing space to bring up the operator menu, and what I want to do is convert the quads to tris. You can also press Ctrl T, and now all the quads become triangles. And one last thing we need to change is regarding the shading. So I'm have everything selected right now, I press W and shade smooth. This is how the shading in Jedi Academy will look like, roughly. So if you're not happy with this, you have to change the model accordingly. Let me quickly show you what smooth shading and flat shading mean. Currently this cube is shaded flat. I'm going to subdivide it a little. This is shaded smoothly, and now I'm going to shade it flat, and now I'm going to shade it smoothly. And now the edges are kind of blended and it looks a little rounder, even though it's not. And that's how stuff in Jedi Academy usually looks. If we want to have a hard edge in here, we have to separate the faces. So I can select these faces and separate them, press P. Actually, I think it's called split. Yes. If you separate something, it becomes a new object. If we just want to keep it in the same object and separate it like this, it's called split. So split or Y. And now this is not part of this shading group, so to speak, anymore. So now I'm going to do just that with my sword. I want these lines here to be, well, hard edges, kind of. So I'm selecting, press C to get a circle selection, and selecting all the inner parts, and the same on the other side. Actually, I should have done this before applying the mirror modifier. Now I have to do it on all the sides. Anyway, I'm doing that, and press Y to split it. Also split left from right. So now you can see that there's a better hard edge. The same applies to this line here and the other side as well, of course. Once again, press Y to split it. Can I press C to get circle selection? Can use the mouse wheel to change the size. And yeah, I'm going to split this and on the other side as well. Now there's a nice line here, and also on the outside at the edge here. But I don't want this to be unblended. So if you select a single face and want to select everything that's connected to it, you can press Ctrl L, select linked all, and it selects everything that's connected to that. You can hide stuff by pressing H. So right now I'm hiding some parts of the model that I'd like to ignore. Now I'd like to connect these vertices here. There are two at the same place, and I can't select them in solid mode. I have to switch to wireframe mode. So you can just select all you want to wield, and when they're in the same place, you can use the remove doubles tool. I'm pressing Z to switch between solid and wireframe mode. Remove doubles, or press W and remove doubles. Now they are connected again, wielded together. I'd like to do the same up here, but make sure I don't select the one connected to this. So again, I'm pressing Ctrl L to select the whole connected faces. Interesting. Yeah, there are still. So apparently seams like these also keep linked. Oh, limit by seams. Yeah, you can turn that off and on. In this case, I want it to be just there, so I press Y again to split this and H to hide it. And again, selecting vertices that are supposed to be wielded. I think these three was on the other side. And again, the bottom here. Remove doubles. Save. Now I just need to do the same back here. Selecting faces that are supposed to be. So I want an edge here and around the whole back like this. So I split these and connect it again. Here, here, here. And here and here. Remove doubles. So now it's got proper smoothing the way I want it. Again, save it. Have a look at it in texture mode. Yeah. So now we have to create some text, which are really just position and rotation information. For example, about where the player is supposed to hold it and where the blade comes out. I'll simply take a look at some Jedi Academy weapons and see how it's made there. So I'm going to the SDK, Tools, and there's Mod View, Model Viewer, which can be used to open GLM files, which is the Jedi Academy model file format, or one of them. And I'm opening Saber. Doesn't really matter, just take one of them. And this loads the Saber. And the interesting part are the tags. You can click tag in the left side and have a display of the different tags. You can't really see what's inside, so I'm setting the view to as wireframe. You can also press Ctrl W. And now I'm highlighting, now either highlight, there's blade, so apparently the blade, so these are red, green and blue, RGB, and in that order is X, Y, Z, so red is X, green is Y, and blue is Z, like in the Radiant, for example, too, and also in Blender, so the green axis is Y, also shown in the lower left, up is Z, blue, and X is red. So the blade, so first of all we can note, I'm going to show origin lines. So the model in general is pointing upwards towards Z+, so I'm going to rotate our model, press R to rotate it, and I want to rotate it around the Y axis, so I press Y, and now I enter 90 to rotate it 90 degrees, press enter, so I rotated it 90 degrees around the Y axis. Now it points up. I don't think this actually matters. Just for trying it out, I'm just not going to do that. I'm going to undo it and see if it works if I don't do it, because I'm pretty sure the only thing that's important is the tags. So parent is where it is hold. If you take a look, I'm going to start another instance of mod view. I'm going to open the Rebel. I've unpacked the Jedi Academy models so I can look at them. This has a tag called L hand and R hand, left hand and right hand. And that is where the saber will be, and it will be moved in such a way that parent is exactly here, I believe. So Y, the Z-axis, the blue one is pointing towards the blade, and here also the blue axis is where the blade will be. So apparently that will be where it will be hold at the parent tag. So we're going to add a parent tag ourselves in Blender. To do this, we press space and enter add object. A simple object without any mesh is called an empty in Blender because it's empty, obviously. So we can give it a name. We will call it parent, and we can go to the object data, display, change this to arrows. Now it displays the different axes. We want to rotate it so that the Z-axis is pointing towards the blade. So rotate it around Y, 90, minus 90. You can also enter the minus at the end. Now it's pointing in that direction. I'm going to the settings on the right. Again, you can open and close them using N or the little plus up here. I want to make sure it's at the Y location 0, so it's centered in the blade. Also Z 0, so it's not in the air somewhere, but exactly in the center of the model. And now I'm moving it along the X-axis until it's where the hand is supposed to be, around here. The handle is pretty big, might be a problem. We'll see about that in a moment. Okay, so that's a parent tag, and we are going to need another one, the blade tag, which is where the blade will start, so right at there, and the X-axis points away from the blade. So I'm going to do just that myself. I'm going to duplicate this empty by pressing Ctrl D. No, actually, sorry, Shift D. And I only want to move it along the X-axis, so I press X and move it to the start, the beginning of the blade, and rotate it so X points away from the blade. So 90 degrees. Again, R to rotate, Y to only rotate it around the Y-axis, and 90 to rotate it 90 degrees. Pressing Z to turn on the wireframe again. So now X points away from the blade. I'm actually going to move it a little further. And there's a parent. Oh, now I just have to rename it. Currently it's called parent.001 because it's a copy. It's supposed to be called blade 1. So I'm calling it blade 1. Now we need to think about the size that this is supposed to have. You can, in Blender, when you have something selected, you can turn on the right side mesh display the Numerix edge length. I'm going to turn that on and select one of the longer edges in the handle. So this is apparently 1.8 units long. I'm going to create a new vertex here and here as measurement, selecting the edge. It is 1.7. Well, I'm going to the top view, pressing 7 on the numpad, moving this to the left and this to the right. So this is 2.5 units long. Now we're going to have a look how long the saber is. This is just the hilt, like this, so I'm going to make them roughly equally long. In order to find out how long this is, I can turn on the height ruler, going to view, showing height ruler. So now it's got this nice ruler. Up here it's at 4, down here it's at -9, and the difference between this is 13, obviously. So, opening a calculator, it is 2.5 long. I want it to be 13 long, so by how much do I have to multiply it? By 13 through divided by 2.5, so that's 5.2. So this is the scale we need to apply. So that's everything I need to know. I'm deleting this edge again, pressing X to delete it. Selecting everything that's supposed to be exported, the model itself and the two empties. Saving one last time. Export Quake Model 3.md3. Going to base, models, weapons 2, saber, and it's called, no, not saber, sorry. This is the default saber, of course. We want to go to whatever you call it your folder. In my case, MRW Rusty Sword. This is going to be called Rusty Sword.md3. Now the md3 name is the name saved in the file. Since we will later export it as a GLM file, it doesn't matter, but if you're making a gun, for example, you need md3 files, and you should enter the right thing here. So that's the path without anything up to base. In my case, models, weapons 2, MRW Rusty Sword, Rusty Sword.md3. And our scale is 5.2. Export. Takes a moment. Quite long actually. Yes, and here we go. Yeah, that's because we just exported 250 frames. I forgot about that. So down here we have the animation settings, and you can move the current frame around here by holding there, but we actually just want one frame. You can also press left arrow and right arrow, have the frame number displayed here, the current. And I want it to end at frame 1. MD3 files support animations. It's per vertex animation, so each vertex gets saved each frame with its current position, and that tends to get quite big. So if we take a look at the model, it's currently 500 kilobyte. Not that big, but let's compare it to just exporting one frame by setting the end to 1. It's just one frame long. Again, saving and export as MD3. We have the recent folders here. I can just go back, click this. Don't forget to set the scale again, 5.2, and the MD3 name. But as I said before, for sabers it's not that important to have the right thing here. Rusty Sword, Rusty Sword.md3, and export. And it was much quicker, and the resulting file is just 7 kilobyte, so that's much smaller. Also, you can't export animated MD3 models to GLM. It will only export the first frame, which is just what we want in our case, but well. Now we're not going to use the MD3 view from the SDK. As I said earlier in the first tutorial, there's a little bug in there regarding exporting tags. they'll have a slight offset. We don't want that, so we use my fixed version, MRW at the end, open. Now I'm going to base, models, weapons 2, rusty sword, and now it should already have the texture. Here we go. If this doesn't have the right texture, then you didn't set the MD3 shader custom property correctly. And I'm going to view view origin, model axis, and tags. Now it displays the parent tag. I'm going to turn on wireframe so I can see it properly. So there's parent back here and blade 1 in the front. Blade 1 with -X towards the blade, which is just what we need, and parent with Z pointing towards the blade. Wonderful. And we can view the bounding box. Oh, where is it? Toggle bounding box down here. This displays the size. So it's 49 units long. A unit is roughly an inch. So if you're used to imperial units, then well, you'll know about this. I have to convert it to centimeters to make sense of it. So 2.5 is about, I think, 2.53. So 1 meter 20. Yeah, no particularly long sword, but 1 meter 20 isn't too bad either. So now we need to export this as a GLM file. The 90-degree skewing is, well, stuff ends up being rotated after exporting if you use the normal export, and that can be a problem, so we want to use the 90-degree without the 90-degree skewing. Export as GLM. Now it asks, are we sure? Yes, we are sure. And if we had more than one frame, it would warn us now, but it didn't. You can also see up here frames, 1 frame in total, currently at frame 0. So now there's a rustysword.glm file. I'm going to open this in mod view to take a look at it. Rusty sword. Here it is. Turning wireframe back off by pressing Ctrl W. Having a look at the tags. There's blade with X pointing away and parent with Z pointing just there, which seems right. And now if we want to take a look at it in the player's hand, we can just go to can just open a player model in mod view and use this tag, right click on it and select bolt a model to this tag surface. If we use deleting any others already there, well, self-explanatory. If there's already another one bolted there, it doesn't really matter right now because there isn't anyone there yet, so we can select either. Now it asks us for the model to bolt there. I'm going to Rusty Sword and selecting this, and now, well, apparently it does matter which rotation it has. So I'm just going to rotate it. So possibly this whole parent tag is not used at all. If we take another look at the Saber W, then the parent tag is right at the origin. So apparently it actually uses the origin to position it, and so we need to rotate our sword. I'm going to select everything, rotate around the y-axis 90 degrees, and move it so that the parent tag is just at the origin. So X should be 0. Can't set it for multiple models at once, so x0 for this one, and for this one. I'm quite surprised, I thought you could. Apparently you can't. Oh well. And moving this along the z-axis, so the parent is exactly at 0. Now just re-export the whole thing. Save first. Doesn't really matter for exporting, but saving is always good if you don't want to lose your work. Rusty sort again, enter it here. Scale 5.2. Export MD3. Open it in MD3 view. So this time it... Well, what is this? It is upside down. That's apparently a bug in the exporter. I'm going to take a look at that and we'll try to fix it. But for now it should be enough to... you can reset the... You can apply the position and rotation to the model itself by using apply object transformation. I think that's the right thing. No, apparently it isn't. Oh, how wonderful. I was pretty sure it was. Well, I need to investigate this, but yeah, you do get the basic idea of how to export it. Now, if it was correct, which it isn't, but if it was, we'd go to File, Export as GLM again. Yes, this time it would ask us if we want to overwrite. Yes, we want to. Do we want to remember this? No. I want to be asked the next time as well, and it's done. Now, mod view might still have the old model caged, so if we want to show it again, yes, we'll have to restart mod view. So I'm just closing these and restarting mod view. And opening Rusty Sword. So yes, just as we predicted, it's not correct, but still, the tags are in the correct position, and it should in theory be hold right at the blade. If we open the Rebel model again or any other player model, tag, right hand, bolt a model there, weapons 2, the Rusty Sword, yes. So now you just have to write a .sub file, a Saber file. There's an example for that in the tools as well. It's in docs, sub readme.txt, lightsaber configurations. So here all the things are explained, and you can, for reference, check the ones with the Jedi Academy. They're in X-Data, Sabers, sub single 1, for example. Yeah, well. And an important option in our case is to hide the blade. I'm not quite sure where it is. no blade. So you will open that to state the 1 if you have a real sword type model like me. And here we have the saber definition for a single one. So you'd add, I'm just going to do it right now, I'm going to copy the whole thing, create a new file, call it MRW Rusty Sword. This is just an internal name. The one that's displayed is a name. You have to put it in quotes, double quotes. So this is Rusty Sword. It's saber single, so you can hold it in one hand. This is the model. Change that to MRW Rusty Sword. Rusty Sword, or whatever yours is called. Currently it has the on and off sounds of saber. You might want to actually take a look at... no, I don't think... I think there are some sounds for real swords and for the one that Tavion uses in the end. That should have some sounds to go with it. But saber, well, I don't know where they are. Weapons, scepter, maybe here. No. So maybe you'll have to make your own sounds, I don't know. This is not about creating sounds. So we'd add, yeah, right, in our copy, add no blade and set that to 1. But for testing it can be good to have to show the blade so you see how long it is. Yes, and then you save this as yes, some other name in the xdata folder as well, MRW Rusty Sword.sub. Now I'm going to spend some time trying to get the Blender things to work. But you can do here, not interested in this, because I'm going to take a look at the exporter and we'll fix this anyway. So yeah. Okay, it might be clear rotation. No, this just resets it. R. No, you can't change anything. Apply rotation. I think this tutorial I have open on the other monitor is about Blender 2.4. Doesn't really help me here. Control A to apply. Okay. Rotation and scale. Rotation, location, yes. Now the model is at 0, 0, 0. So Control A, you can also click down here, rotations, to apply these. Okay, so yeah. Apply modifier? No. Oh yeah, that's of course. apply object transformation. So that was the right thing. I just should have selected this down here. Okay. Now it should work. I'm going to save it again. Now you can see that the origin of the model is in the origin of the map, of the scene. Location is 0, 0, 0, 0, rotation is 0, 0, 0, and now there shouldn't be any problems. Just going to save and then export this Quake Model 3 again. One last time, I should hope. 5.2. Models, weapons 2. MRW, rusty sword.md3, and export, and open this like this. Yes, and now it's right side up. Now again export without 90-degree skewing. Yes, I want to overwrite. No, I don't want to remember that. And restart mod view. And the model of the rebel. Go to Tech, Surfaces, select left hand or right hand, it doesn't really matter. Bold model there. Weapons 2, and select the model. And there it is in his hands. Yeah, as I predicted, the hilt is a little bit big. Can rotate using left mouse button, zoom, right mouse button, hold Alt and left mouse button to move around. And this is what it will look like in game. Likely. Actually, I think it would work if you didn't do this. It's just an MD3 view that it uses the origin. I have no confirmation for that though. I'll add that as annotation to the video. Left hand up. Let's put it in his right hand as well, for good measure. And now we can let him play some animations. So these are two-handed animations, so I'm going to clear that one. Yeah. So that's what you're going to look like fighting with that sword. Yeah, that's it for the modeling tutorial.